Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a big crowd we have here tonight to celebrate the 61st annual dinner of the Ireland-U.S. Council. God, you're a good-looking group of people, you know that. Anyway, my name is David O'Sullivan. As Executive Director of the Ireland-U.S. Council, it's a pleasure to be able to join with all our members and guests here in New York at this same venue. We've staged our annual dinner here every year, one year excepting. Old COVID got us a couple of years ago. For 61 consecutive years, we hold the record in this club for the most consecutively staged annual event in the club's history. And we meet each year in this venue to renew our mission, our dedication to our mission of successfully, and we've done it successfully, of strengthening and enhancing closer commercial connections, better business bonds between America and Ireland. Tonight, we have a wonderful program lined up for you. We're honouring the great Angus Kelly from AirCap, who will receive our Award for Outstanding Achievement. We'll be hearing from Angus very shortly, but right now I wanted to welcome him and his wife Deirdre and his daughter Georgia, who is here, and his son Gabriel, who is here. You're all most welcome. You're welcome. And I can tell you, in this club, it was designed, was paid for mostly by J.P. Morgan. I see there are a lot of Morgans in the room tonight, but J.P. Morgan built this building. It was designed by Stanford White of the famous McKim, Mead and White architectural practice in New York. And it surely is one of the most beautiful rooms in all of New York City. And you're all welcome here tonight. Representing the Government of Ireland, we have a great friend of this council. Ireland's Consul General in New York, Helena Nolan, is here with her husband, Sammy Dadu. Sammy? Now, we have to thank all our sponsors and supporters and friends of the Council who helped make tonight possible. But if I was to mention each one of you individually, there'd be a few of you coming up with the old Crozier hook to get me off because it would take too long. So on our video screens throughout the evening, we say our thanks to all of our sponsors, and we'd like to give them a big round of applause right now to thank them. I'd have to say that the economic relations between Ireland and America, I mean, history between Ireland and America goes back many hundreds of years, but the economic relations between Ireland and America, certainly in the last 100 years, certainly in the last 50 years, probably represents the most successful bilateral economic relationship between any two countries anywhere in the world. You know, following the election results in America last week, we can expect that the new incoming Trump administration is likely, among other things, to decrease corporation profits tax, which will make Ireland's attractiveness as a location that much more challenging for Ireland. However, the view that we have in this council, and we've been at this a long time, is that Ireland has always had to compete for mobile international industrial investment projects, and a lower corporation profits tax in America is going to sharpen the calculus there for sure. On trade matters, and aerospace is sort of a focus of tonight's dinner, Ireland is one of America's best customers. I mean, you get a very big number when you add together the value of the order books of all of the US-made aircraft, jet engines, aerospace technology products bought by Ireland's aviation leasing industry. And of course, don't forget Ryanair, which is sort of, in a way, sort of an outshoot, if you like, of the aircraft leasing industry, because it sort of grew out of GPA in a sort of a way. It's the largest airline in the world now if you rank it by the number of destinations served, and it is the largest. It flies exclusively Boeing equipment and is a really big customer of Boeing in Seattle. So the future does present a lot of challenges, but it also presents a lot of opportunity in our view. Final point I'd make about the new administration. President-elect Trump is the only president of the United States ever to have invested capital and built a business in Ireland, and I think that will stand to our credit. And despite all the changes, you're going to see us back here again in this venue, celebrating the relationships in business and economics between Ireland and America. It's now my great pleasure to introduce the President of your Council, Tom Higgins, who will introduce the rest of the program. Tom?
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure for me to be here and add my words of welcome to you all here tonight to what we believe will be an amazing occasion. Earlier this evening, we had our 61st annual meeting of members and directors. The governance of the Ireland-U.S. Council delegates much of its executive decision-making to our executive committee. I want to take a little bit of time and thank our National Secretary, Jim Adrian. Jim, where are you? They're right next to me. Gee whiz. Thanks, Jim. And we also want to thank Marty Cunningham, our treasurer, from the real estate firm of Avison Young for their continued support. Let's give them a big round of applause. Happily tonight I can report to you that our council is solvent, we're debt-free, and we're street legal. Let's give them all a big hand. Thank you very much. Tonight we celebrate a wonderful honoree in Angus Kelly, who receives our Ireland-U.S. Council Award for Outstanding Achievement. We have a short video here, so please turn your attention to the video screens in the room, and then right after that we'll hear from the main man himself. So let's roll the video. Thank you.
We are AirCap. At AirCap, we're passionate about what we do. Fueled by our shared ambition and commitment to excellence, we're shaping the future of aviation for generations to come. We provide comprehensive and innovative solutions to over 300 customers around the world, enabling access to the most in-demand new technology passenger and cargo aircraft, engines, and helicopters. We are the partner of choice to hundreds of the world's most successful airlines. Our team of aviation experts are driven to build long-lasting, trusted relationships that help our customers grow their businesses in profitable and sustainable ways. Our highly attractive portfolio consists of over 1,700 aircraft, 1,000 engines, and 300 helicopters, and an order book of over 300 of the most in-demand new technology assets. We continue to make progress towards our target of approximately 75% new technology aircraft by the end of 2024. These aircraft provide leading-edge fuel burn savings, helping our airlines modernize their fleets and reduce their emissions. We have become the global leader in aviation leasing through carefully planned organic growth and decisive industry-leading acquisitions, combined with 5 decades of experience, continuously driving returns for our shareholders. We have a conservative balance sheet and close to $20 billion of available liquidity, with strong investment-grade credit ratings from all 3 major rating agencies. We're backed by hundreds of the world's largest financial institutions and investors. We are AerCap, home to an unrivaled team and united by a shared purpose of driving aviation to reach new heights and perform at its best. We never stand still.
Well, good evening, everyone. And to quote Bob Hope when he received his Congressional Gold Medal, "I feel very humbled, but I think I have the strength of character to fight it." Now, you're all very welcome this evening. And in particular, I want to thank those of you who sponsored a table. Many of you may know that the origins of the Ireland-America Council date back to the first visit of a sitting US president to Ireland. And that was JFK when he visited Ireland in 1963. And my Bob Hope quote there was JFK actually gave him that medal when he said it. But while there's always been very close bonds between Ireland and America, I've no doubt that that particular visit solidified those bonds, and I would say helped pave the way for my journey and the journey of AerCap. I've been extremely fortunate to have been surrounded by incredible people in both my personal and professional life. None more so than my wife Deirdre, who's here this evening, my eldest daughter Georgia, who goes to college here in the US, and my son Gabriel. And of course, I should say that Deirdre herself was born here in the US of A, in the great state of Georgia. And of course, my parents, without whom I would never be here. But my opportunity came about due to a great Irish entrepreneur named Tony Ryan, who was the founder of the aircraft leasing business when he set up a company called GPA in 1975. He was also the founder of Ryanair, which is Europe's largest airline. I'll never forget, as a young teenager, not much older than Gabriel there, growing up in Ireland in the 80s, when it was a fairly bleak place economically, nothing like the powerhouse that it is today. But I saw this guy coming on TV. He's a very flamboyant character, and he started talking about being the biggest owner of airplanes in the world, the biggest customer of Boeing, #1 at what he did. This was inspirational stuff at the time to me, and it showed me that if you're surrounded by great people and you work very hard, you can do anything. Ironically, though, my opportunity came about due to the financial distress that GPA found itself in following the first Gulf War. So much so that it was forced to sell the majority of its assets to Jack Welch of GE fame. Now, Welch actually devoted a chapter of his autobiography to this deal. And what he did was he bought the majority of the assets at a knockdown price. He took most of the people, and he set up a rival business called GCAS on its doorstep. But interestingly, Welch didn't buy the company, but he wanted to make sure he profited if it ever did survive. He didn't think it would. He thought its massive debt load and its huge order book would force it into bankruptcy. But he insisted on having an option to buy the company for $1 in perpetuity. Now, I was completely oblivious to these corporate high-wire activities as I made my way through university in Dublin via a number of well-known hostelries and nightclubs. It has to be said the latter met with varying degrees of success. But luckily, while I was in college, I was hired by KPMG. And in my first week in KPMG, all the new recruits were brought into a room and said, who wants to go to Shannon, County Clare, west coast of Ireland for the audit of GPA? I put up my hand straight away. None of my companions did. They all viewed this as a posting to the sticks for months on end. But undaunted, the young Turk that I was, I set off for Shannon, County Clare. And I wasn't disappointed when I got there. I found a group of tremendously committed, dedicated people who believed they could be the best at what they did. And luckily, they saw something in me, because the day I finished my training contract, they hired me. So much did they believe in it that despite the extreme financial turbulence that the company was flying through at that time, they started buying up all the shares of the business around the world. And eventually, with the help of Texas Pacific Group here in the US, they bought that option back from GE. And hence, the name of the company today is AerCap, because GE insisted the name of the company had to change. Anyway, we cracked on with our newfound independence, grew the business, but a few years later, we sold out to an aircraft leasing company based in Amsterdam that was owned by 5 German banks. Now, the Dutch arrived over to the metropolis, that is Shannon, County Clare, and they also asked, who here wants to go to the red lights of Amsterdam? So, anyway, I was the only person who, law of suus, as we say, os Gaeilge, put up the hand, and I packed my bags and took off for Amsterdam in early 2001. Now, as we know all too well here in New York, both the world and the aviation industry was rocked by the tragic events of 9/11. So much so in our industry that our German shareholders decided to sell the business following 9/11. The sale of the business eventually closed in 2005 to Cerberus Capital. And that investment was led by Bob Warden, who's here this evening, and is still on our board. Now, this was my first interaction, serious interaction with US business, and it was exhilarating. I vividly recall a meeting at 299 Park Avenue, which was the Cerberus headquarters, with Bob. Now, I've been hearing for years from our German bank shareholders what could not be done. Bob said, we are going to IPO this company. Now, I was on the verge, because of what I'd heard of the last year, saying, no way, that's never going to happen. But I caught myself just in time. I'm not sure I'd be here tonight if I hadn't. And anyway, we got the company listed on the New York Stock Exchange in November '06. And I had been tasked with leading the IPO project. And I remember many colourful calls from Bob Warden urging both me and the troops onto greater and better things. These calls were inevitably followed up with an email of get it done. There was one speech that was, I remember now, particularly pithy but motivational, from the head of private equity at Cerberus, a gentleman named Leonard Tesler. And he said to me, this is going to work out one of two ways for you. I'm either going to blow your brains out or I'm going to make you a rich man. Now, to me, this is a meritocracy. And when people follow through on what they say and what they promise, and they always did to their credit. But as I said, we got the IPO done, and the board wanted to figure out following that if there was any more in me. So we bought a couple of businesses in Miami that needed to be turned around. And I was sent over to Miami. Deirdre came over, and one of our kids was born there. But I knew it was a one-way ticket because they told me. They said, we are going to pick a CEO in the next 2 years, a successor to the current CEO. And it's between you and another guy. You're going to run the US-based business. He's going to run the rest of the world. And during that process, I remember we had a Russian customer over, and he had these wise words to me. He said, I would never bet against America. He had been familiar with our succession process 18 years before the TV show Succession, but Those were wise words, and I've never betted against America. That's always a losing trade. But I got the news in late 2010 that I'd become the CEO. And I don't think that anywhere else in the world but America where a 37-year-old could become the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar public company. Thank you. But I could never have been successful without the guidance of our then chairman, Peter Korteweg, who certainly took most of the rough edges off me and I hope imparted a fraction of his wisdom to me. But at this point in time, we're bang in the middle of the financial crisis. Now, we've just taken on a new investor, a famous investor, Leon Cooperman, also based here in New York. In my first meeting with Leon, he sat me down and he said, "Son, in your business, never run out of cash and never run out of balls." The good news was we didn't run out of cash. And in the financial crisis, we were able to help American Airlines through a Chapter 11 process, and we provided them with $40 million every week, got to $1.6 billion. But out of that, I formed one of the most important business connections of my career, which was with Tom Horton, who was the CEO of American at the time. And we'll come back to Tom in a couple of minutes. But anyway, we were able to help American and AerCap, and as I said, I formed that relationship. But also at that time, in early 2011, as I said, we're still in the middle of the financial crisis. And a seminal meeting for me, and I think for AerCap, happened a few blocks away from here. Our vice chairman at the time, Paul Dacier, who's here tonight, and our chairman now, asked to meet me. And he said, let's meet in New York. We'll meet in the Nat King Cole Bar in the St. Regis on 55th Street. So I went there. I was feeling pretty good about myself at this point, thinking, hey, you know, I'm doing okay. And anyway, he sits me down, and he said, in true American style, "Now what are you going to do?" And I was a bit taken aback, and he said, "No, I mean it. Where do we rank? Where are we in the world?" I said, "Well, Paul, you know, we're number 3 in the world." Truth was, we were the tallest dwarf. There was 2 giants in our business, more than 3 times our size. One was GCAS, the GE business, and another one was owned by AIG called ILFC. And at that meeting in the Nat King Cole Bar, Paul said to me, "Why can't we be number 1? Why not?" And walking out of there, I said, if someone of his business acumen and his achievement has that kind of faith in me, then I should go after it and go for it. And so at the time, ILFC was up for sale. It was owned by AIG because of its issues. And interestingly, and the road is long, and you meet many people along the road, and you run into them again. As I say, manners cost nothing. But the guy who had run our IPO for Morgan Stanley was a gentleman by the name of Pete Juhas. And so we'll come back to Pete a bit too in a minute. But Pete, anyway, and I eventually agreed terms, because he was selling the business for AIG, that we buy it for $25 billion. And we agreed that in the Crosby Street Hotel down in Soho. Now, I had to get the money, of course, the technicality. And luckily enough, I was backed by Mike Corbett at Citi and John Greer, who's here this evening, and also Axel Weber, who was the chairman of UBS and former chairman of the Bundesbank in Germany. But my final hurdle was to present to the board of AIG, which was controlled by the Fed because they had most of the directors. So after I gave my pitch, one of the Fed directors said to me, "Now, Mr. Kelly, you're the 14th person who's come in here and told us you have the money. How do we know?" I said, "Well, Axel Weber told me to tell you that if you ask that question, he said, I'm good for it." And the Fed said, "Well, if the chairman of the Bundesbank says you're good for it in our books." So we got it done. But, a couple of years later, we decided we'd have to move our headquarters from Los Angeles to Dublin. So I took off to our office on the modestly named Constellation Boulevard in Century City. Yeah, I told the troops, we had a town hall. I said, "Guys, listen, I have news, good news and bad news. You can decide which is which." They said, "The news is we're leaving LA. We're moving to a wonderful coastal city in Europe, Dublin." Now, I wasn't initially knocked over in the stampede of families running to Dublin, but in the end, 50 families moved to Dublin when they saw the opportunity ahead. And I wanted them and I needed them, because I wanted and I needed the American can-do culture in our new home. And it infected everyone and drove us all forward. Now, I said I'd come back to Tom Horton. And a couple of years later, in 2018, Larry Culp, who's here this evening, became the CEO of GE. And I called Tom and I said, Tom, I really like the opportunity to meet with Larry. And I don't think that if I hadn't had that relationship of working with Tom through the financial crisis, he would have set up that meeting. But Larry and I met in Shannon, County Clare in 2019. And we discussed the industry, and I floated the idea to him of bringing GCAS back into the fold, as it were. Now, nothing immediately developed from that meeting, but a relationship was formed. And shortly afterwards, in early 2020, COVID hit. And COVID hit the aviation industry harder than it's ever been hit. And let me tell you something, that is saying something. It's quite the predicament when none of your customers are generating any revenue. They're airlines that have no airplanes flying. Now, it's dark, dark times. And so much so, we were forced at the beginning of April 2020 to draw down all of our undrawn lines of credit, which was $10 billion. And stock price tanked, etc. But that night, that $10 billion was funded without hesitation by the banks who are here this evening. Morgan Stanley, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, all did it without hesitation. So the good news was we hadn't run out of cash, but in the words of Leon Cooperman, had I run out of balls. So anyway, I called Larry and I said, Larry, have you thought about my proposal? He said, I haven't, Gus, but he was gracious enough to invite me to Boston. So you have to remember how bad things were back then. You could not come to the United States. It was closed to all international travel. So I had to get a special exemption from the American embassy in Dublin to come over here, and another exemption from the Irish government to get home. But that day, when I landed in Logan Airport in early October 2020, I was the only passenger all day in Logan. So I meet with Larry, and his first question is, he said, now Gus, I know you want about $30 billion of airplanes off me, but have you been anywhere near an airport anytime recently? Anyway, I walked through the proposal, and then, Larry's a very astute guy, and he has a detailed and pertinent question. He says to me, do you have the money? And I said, well, Larry, I'm working on it. And I took off to my old pals on Wall Street. And bear in mind now, at this point, it's December 2020, and the vaccine has yet to be rolled out, so still very tough for aviation. Now, Wall Street does come in for a lot of flack, but in my view, without Wall Street and the daring of the people who work on it, so many great ideas and great companies would never get off the ground. So the banks here, they said, we'll give you $24 billion in December 2020 to help you buy GCAS. That's great, guys, heroic, thank you very much. And then Larry took a $5 billion equity investment in the business, which took a tremendous vision and a not an inconsiderable amount of faith at the time to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, that will only happen in America. And I'm going to finish with a quote from the Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw. And JFK used this quote in that seminal visit to Ireland when he addressed the Irish Parliament. And I think, to me, it sums up America, and I hope AerCap. And it goes, some men see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were, and I say, why not? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you, God bless Ireland, and God bless America.
Thank you, Angus. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy your dinner. We'll be back with the rest of the programme a little later on. Thank you. I always hate getting up here for the second part of the programme because the room is alive with great table conversation, and I sort of feel that I'm the conversation killer by coming back. But we're a business organisation, so we like to finish on time. We like to get you out the door in a timely manner. So welcome to the second part of the programme. The Ireland-U.S. Council is a membership organisation. All the information you need is on our website, great website, irelanduscouncil.com. You know anybody who'd like to join our outfit and support the organisation's efforts through the year, we'd appreciate you passing the good word along. In the room tonight, we're very pleased to acknowledge one of our honorees from our Ireland-U.S. Council Gala dinner in Dublin Castle this past summer. He's a great supporter of Vision Ireland, which is one of the charities that this council favours. Sebastian Raspanti is here with his daughter. Sebi, you're welcome back. We're going to play a little short. We're a business organisation and we engage in business matters throughout the year, but we do like to support the arts and we do like to support charitable endeavours. And one of the great charities in Ireland is what used to be called the National Council for the Blind in Ireland, is now called Vision Ireland. It's a wonderful charitable endeavour, and we want to show this short video. So if you turn your attention, please, to the screens, we show that video now.
Each morning in Ireland, 250,000 people waken to know that sight loss will be part of their personal journey that day. That's 250,000 families, 250,000 homes in Ireland are impacted by sight loss. Vision Ireland are very fortunate to be the leading sight loss charity to support all of those people to ensure that they reach their maximum potential and have the quality of life that they deserve. Without the support of agencies like the Ireland-U.S. Council, our work would not be possible. We want to acknowledge the wonderful support that we've received in the past number of years, both in New York and Dublin, where the Ireland-U.S. Council have provided us with a platform to make people aware of the wonderful work that is done in Ireland and the cutting-edge innovation that is provided for people living with sight loss on the island of Ireland. We thank the Ireland-U.S. Council for that opportunity and we wish them well in all their endeavours.
An amazing award, and I'm deeply humbled to have received it. I think that it has been an absolutely fantastic evening and so many worthy recipients of awards, and I hope that our project is fully supported by each and every person and that it becomes a real reality rather than just a dream.
And it's wonderful to see the award being given to Denise Harris. From my point of view, from Philanthropy Ireland and representing philanthropy, it's wonderful to hear and see the work that's been done in supporting causes like this.
very welcome to the Wayfinding Centre, which is the world's first transport training centre for people with disabilities, which has every single form of public transport in Ireland here under one roof. We have a coach, we have a bus, accessible taxi, we have a Lewis tram, we have a Dart rail station, but most importantly, we have an Airbus A319, and that wouldn't have happened without the amazing kind support of Angus Kelly. AirCap and Angus were the catalysts for making this centre happen. Without their belief, without their input, and without their generosity, this centre would never have had the ability to deliver what it does today. So Angus, a heartfelt thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. To introduce the next part of our program, it's a great pleasure to introduce a great friend of this organization. This organization first started 61 years ago, and Aer-Lingus, Ireland's national airline, I keep calling it Ireland's national airline, I suppose it's not a national airline anymore, it's a big international company. But Aer-Lingus has supported this organisation every year since then. Bill Byrne is on our board, and it's a great pleasure to welcome him here tonight.
Thanks, David. I thought I was getting an award. I guess not, sorry. Mr. Kelly, you deserve it more than I do. For 65 years, Aer-Lingus has connected the island of Ireland with the U.S., and that's longer than any other carrier by decades. And that started right here in New York. The Council and Aer-Lingus have grown together across those 6 decades, building the ties between Ireland and the U.S. Ireland to the U.S. is who we are, and it's what we do. Your arrival in Ireland begins once you board our aircraft. You'll enjoy a warm Irish welcome from our team at all stages. You will arrive in Ireland before you even leave the gate. Thank you. Will you tell Michael Brewster that so he knows? Okay. We're also pleased to let you know that Aer-Lingus will move from our current home in Terminal 7 at JFK to the brand new state-of-the-art Terminal 6 by the end of 2025. You will enjoy the finest in airport amenities, including our very own business class lounge. New York is like our second headquarters, and we're going to keep it that way. Now, we always like to send you home with a little music in your ears. Tonight, we are pleased to reprise the remarkable talents of this young man from Dublin. He is rightly renowned as a virtuoso violinist, and we are delighted to welcome Gregory Harrington and some friends back to our Ireland-U.S. Council platform. Please welcome Gregory.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers, boss. Thank you. Shh. We're going to begin with one of the most remarkable pieces that is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. It's a global phenomenon that celebrates Irish heritage with grace, with energy, and with fire. So we're going to begin with Bill Whelan's River Dance. Thank you. So we're going to continue, as this is the Ireland-U.S. Council, we're going to continue and bring it across the pond from Ireland to the beautiful Appalachia and Americana, and how that was fused with the incredible traditional Irish music. So we're going to go with this piece that was, for many of you who might know the Ken Burns period, the Ken Burns PBS series, The Civil War. This is the incredible, touching piece by Jay Ungar called A Shokin Farewell. So, last piece. And I have been, for the last number of years, been fascinated by this connection between music and leadership. From harmony to collaboration to creativity, from precision to innovation to listening, and the list goes on. I was back in Dublin, I think a year ago, and I was giving a talk to the Irish rugby team, and we went through that one of those things was non-verbal communication, and that 95% of what we do on stage is non-verbal. So I wanted to end with a little bit of musical team building and with a difference. And this piece is from a composer that actually lived about 100 years ago. And he is one of the most incredible classical composers. So this is technically a piece that should be for 147 symphonic musicians on a stage. And we're going to do it with 3 people. But, thank you. As Angus will probably agree, there isn't an Irish person in the room that doesn't sort of go towards a challenge head first. So I decided, instead of doing it with 3 people on 3 instruments, we would do this on 1 instrument. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ravel's Bolero.
Now, do you like apples? So, how do you like them apples? Listen, thank you all very much for coming. Have you no homes to go to? Go home now. Actually, you can stay as long as you like, but we're finished up here. Thank you for coming.